The Arabian Desert, the largest expanse of continuous sand in the world. It's hard to imagine human societies could have settled in such a hostile environment. And yet, they founded the first oases here some 5,000 years ago. Almost nothing is known about these mysterious peoples. Archaeologists are certain, though. This barren land conceals treasures of inestimable scientific value. But organizing excavations is hugely complicated by extreme aridity and by the weight of religious objection that holds sway in the Arabian Peninsula. The pre-Islamic period is considered taboo in the birthplace of Islam. Despite these many obstacles, French archaeologists have taken up the challenge of a mission to the Sultanate of Oman, the most tolerant country for this sort of investigation. This is a unique chance to discover the way of life, the techniques and beliefs of those ancient populations.
This is unique. Without a doubt, it's a first in the history of archaeology. Excellent.
The echo of a distant past will emerge from the sand, that of the ancestors of the Bedouin who still roam these vast expanses today. The Sultanate of Oman is on the southeastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula, in contact with Sunni Arabia and Shia Iran, Islam's warring brothers. Oman does its utmost to remain neutral in this powder keg, despite pressure from neighboring countries. Here they practice Ibadism, a third form of Islam characterized by tolerance. Sultan Qaboos ibn Said, who's ruled the country since the 1970s, embodies this independent spirit. In Muscat, Oman's capital city, his palace faces the National Museum, which he's just opened. It's a strong signal. This atypical sovereign is counting on archaeology to write the missing pages of his people's history. He's authorized our French team to accompany him on this sensitive endeavor. For 10 years now, Guillaume Gianez has headed the French archaeological mission based in the town of Adam, 150 kilometers inland. His excavation work is concentrated in the strategic mountain region, where the little humidity from the sea is naturally retained by the mountains. This is where the first oases were established 5,000 years ago. Behind these mountains begins Rub al-Khali, the empty quarter in Arabic, total desert, where life is impossible. In Salut, Professor Gianez may finally hold the key to understanding how these primitive oases were created. He's embarked on an ambitious project, the excavation of a monumental tower, the largest ever discovered. As much as 750 square meters already emerged from the sand. The function of these buildings is still a mystery, but the archaeologist suspects this tower played a key part in a fascinating water management system.
This site was first settled in the Bronze Age, so around 3000 BCE. One of the main goals of this year's excavation is to understand the link between the aridification of this area and the hydraulic structures connected with the tower.
Professor Gianez leads a team of 30 people. Everyone is busy clearing the first section of the tower. They have to work fast because excavation is only possible in winter. The rest of the year, the heat is unbearable. Given the size of the task, the uppermost layers are cleared by power shovel. More used to public works projects than excavations, the workmen have to be trained on the job about the subtleties of archaeology.
It's done by machine, so you have to make it flat, one level. A very flat level. And then sweep it to see the bricks. That's right? Okay, so nice and flat. That part later, okay?
The area to be excavated is huge. Professor Gianez has decided to assign the different sectors to young French and Italian archaeologists, all graduates like him of Paris Sorbonne University. Trained to be meticulous, they have his complete trust.
Guys, get up from the stone. Come.
Things are changing fast around here. It's great. Don't worry. Extensive work, like hard labor. That's good. I bet you once this whole area is cleaned up, thoroughly cleaned, you'll see it.
I'm in charge of the excavation of the tower. Given the enormity of the task, I focused on the southeast section. The goal was to reveal the external structure. That's been done, and now the internal structure, how it's organised. Because there are brick walls, apparently. We're dealing with proto-historic societies with no writing systems. We have no information from them, we have no texts. We don't know who they were, how they functioned, what their religion was, what they lived from, or how they lived. In such cases, archaeology is the only solution. In the case of a tower like this, dating from the 3rd millennium is too soon to say what answers it will provide. Some theories suggest they were towers for managing water. Others believe they were prestigious places where the high-ranking, powerful members of society lived. And for others still, they're military defences. So excavating this tower is a way of having answers to our questions. When we started excavating, we cleared the stone wall. With the stone wall, it's simple. You cut around it, and that's it. And then we started to dig down. We figured there could be brick. Zilch. Nothing at all. So we decided to stop beating about the bush. We came across ground like this. There were these sort of small cracks all over it, and then we saw lines appear. And these lines were actually brick joints. So the idea now, each time we dig down, is to do it in stages of 10 centimetres tops, with a shovel. Cut it really level, sweep the surface, and wait. Then come back at the end of the day and hope that, thanks to the low-angled light, by some miracle, we'll have found a small continuous line for about 5 centimetres, which will, in fact, be the wall before we go down and around it. Bingo! Bingo! A side of the wall. We can see the line. It's kind of fleeting, but we can see the line. On the other side, it's the same thing. Here's the line. So I'm right, actually, on top of the wall. Yes! I found one, that's the first step. The 1000th step is to have a wall with cleared bricks.
The tower's walls are an imposing 3 meters thick, and the inside is divided into squares by earth brick partitions. After carrying out soundings, the team realizes the sole purpose of these compartments was to make filling the tower easier. This simple yet interesting building technique raises a more enigmatic question. Why make such a massive building only to fill it with earth? The answer is to be found outside the walls. A trench dug to the north reveals the existence of a double ditch around the tower. An overall picture then begins to emerge, deciphered by geoarchaeologist Tara Burzen.
For the time being, we don't know much about this tower. What we do know is that it's located on a floodplain that's still active now, which was in all likelihood inundated periodically. These ditches of water could well have had a defensive role and protected a resource inside these towers.
This is what the tower looked like in the Bronze Age, at the time it was built. This type of building was used to preserve the most precious treasure in the desert, water. By studying the more modest neighbouring buildings, the archaeologists systematically reveal the presence of a wall. The Tower of Salut, the biggest ever discovered, must have had one too. Further excavation should confirm this. Located in the bed of a wadi, the purpose of the ditches and of its fortifications becomes clear. To protect the well from flooding rather than intruders. During storms, the force of these seasonal rivers could destroy the only resource essential to agriculture and life.
The ditches were fed by rainfall and floodwater, but the wells were probably fed by groundwater, which rises when it rains and reaches the level of the well's borehole.
What was new in the Bronze Age in the Sultanate of Oman and in the Eastern Arabian Peninsula as a whole was a settled community based on farming. In these very dry, very sunny climates, the only key to developing agriculture was the date palm. Not only does it bear fruit, dates, but its cover provides shade, and this shade means cereals can develop, other fruit trees can grow, and animals can find shelter.
Although the tower has revealed most of its secrets, there is a new development in the investigation. On the south side, buildings have just been unearthed outside its perimeter. The purpose of these new structures is still a mystery. Isolated blocks, which cannot be linked to any structure, complicate the understanding of the site and leave the archaeologists perplexed.
Oh yeah, the big stone. Maybe we need to remove it. The area behind here, I'm increasingly skeptical about it. I feel inclined to clear it with the bulldozer. Besides, these blocks are too far from the tower and the mountains to have fallen from either. And maybe we'll use them for the restoration work. But we need to move them. With a crowbar. Yes.
A thorough clean makes things clearer and enables the team to understand how the region's climate evolved. The drought worsened after the tower was built. The little rainfall did not cause catastrophic flooding, and the redundant ditches were filled in. Housing was then built on top. Against all odds, the oasis continued to thrive in an increasingly hostile environment. Measurements taken with a ground-penetrating radar system prove these buildings extend well beyond the tower. It can be concluded that a real oasis civilization developed. Salut became a kind of capital. The mission tries to figure out the exact chronology of the different phases of occupation of the site. It's unfortunately extremely difficult to date piles of stones, as they change very little over time. With no organic matter, broken pieces of ceramic material found in the ground could provide precious clues. It's time to make them talk.
It's the same type. Is that it for the Iron Age, or do you have more?
I have 3.
Okay. Once we finish going down there, we'll start finding only Bronze Age artifacts. It'll be a very, very good sign.
Back at the archaeologist's base, Italian ceramologist Maria Paola Pellegrino sets about analysing the precious potsherds in order to date the different phases of occupation.
For the Bronze Age, we have potsherds with very simple horizontal parallel lines like this. You can see how different the textures are. These very rough textures, characteristic of the Iron Age, aren't found at all in the ceramics of the Bronze Age.
With these potsherds, we can date the south section at least. No surprises there. Bronze Age, 3rd millennium BCE. For the central zone, which is the hardest to date for now, even if most are Iron Age, which isn't even certain because even this, iron, 100%? In any case, from the Bronze Age we've nothing, right?
Not yet, no.
It's obvious, though, the site was reoccupied. We know thanks to all the Iron Age pottery.
The dating done by Maria Paola and Guillaume indicate 2 distinct periods of occupation. One contemporaneous with the construction of the tower in the 3rd millennium BCE, and the other in the Iron Age, 1,000 years later. What happened here in this interval?
These towers were reused after being abandoned for 1,000 years. Why was this? At the end of the 3rd millennium, the groundwater level dropped following increased aridity. This meant it was no longer possible to irrigate the land, and the site was quite simply deserted. The occupants left. They only returned much later, when they had developed a new technique, the Fallage irrigation method, which is an underground system of irrigation. This meant the oasis could be fed with water from a much deeper layer. It resulted in a revival of the oasis. The climate had not improved, on the contrary, in fact. But this system enabled people to re-inhabit areas that were no longer habitable.
A fallage is an underground gallery that extracts water from the water table. For it to work, the ground surface and the water table must be at higher elevations than the area being supplied. The water is gradually conveyed by gravity to the surface. Building these fallages is a very risky, very dangerous operation indeed, requiring technical skills and practical knowledge.
The last section of the fallage emerges in the open on reaching the oasis, but the underground channel deep beneath the surface runs for several kilometers upstream. Building networks like this requires several years of extremely perilous work, but the benefits are worth the investment. After slumbering for 1,000 years, the oasis culture witnessed a dramatic revival thanks to the fallage technology, which revolutionized irrigation. It was no longer necessary to extract water mechanically as in a well. It flowed unaided and in sufficient quantities. Ample evidence of this technological achievement is the fact that this millennia-old system still supplies the oases today.
In Adam now, since it never been rain around 2 years. But the water still is there, fallage is there. So this is still is all heritage. If you go outside of the village, you will find the new garden, they're using pump. So we are wasting a lot of water now. Compared to village, we used to use sun watch. There is a still like this, so the shadow, it counts half an hour or 1 hour.
Sundials are still used today for timing water shares from the fallage. Each farmer is allocated a colour. When his sector is in the shade, only he has the right to irrigate. This particularly ingenious ancient system remains fair all year because the sectors are compatible with the sun's changing path. The oasis of Adam has existed for more than 4,000 years. As recently as 40 years ago, the medieval earth village was still inhabited. But oil wealth and Sultan Qaboos policy choices have ushered in a new era. And although the Omanis lead more comfortable lives now, modernization has upset age-old balances.
The traditional oases, which have functioned with the same fallage irrigation system for several thousand years, are being negatively impacted by the significant changes resulting from the modernization of the Sultanate of Oman. Most of the people responsible for their upkeep are elderly, and they won't be around in 30 years' time.
Despite the fallage's historical contribution to the Bedouin survival, this system is now threatened. There are just 4 still operating in Adam out of the 20 that once irrigated the traditional oasis. Mohammed Saif is responsible for one of these. It's his job not only to maintain it, but also to pass on his knowledge to the new generation.
How do you protect yourself from snakes when you go down into the fallage?
With a stick. Yes, we always take one when we have to go down into the fallage, and we attach a flashlight to our turban.
I see.
We use the flashlight, and if we see a snake, we hit it.
After the afternoon prayer, I come here and travel back into the past. It reminds me of my ancestors' habits and customs. I learn a lot of things about their farming methods.
When we were young, we'd watch our parents weave palm leaves, make bread, that kind of thing. Everyone had an activity. It enabled us to learn, too. It isn't like it is today. Children spend their time on the soccer pitch or watching TV. Sometimes I wonder how they used to manage. We live in a world of plenty now, but in those days, they had to work hard for everything. And they did so willingly.
When did people leave? When did they start building modern houses?
Since the Sultan's rise to power, companies turned up, people went to work for them, And they started making money and didn't want to live in earth houses anymore.
When we arrived in Adam in 2007, one of the main questions was to understand the link between the peopling of this oasis, Adam is the last oasis in central Oman, the southernmost, and the more arid world that we suppose was inhabited by nomads.
When the oasis was abandoned in the 2nd millennium BCE, the sedentarized populations had no choice but to leave or return to nomadic life to survive the drought. Professor Jeunesse posits that some of these groups retained this way of life they had adapted to. They stayed in the desert. Ancient nomadic dwellings have never been found, as it's likely they were made of perishable materials like the Bedouins' huts today. All trace of the nomads of the past has probably disappeared for good, swallowed up by this immense ocean of sand. Or has it? The archaeologists have a secret weapon, a drone capable of covering vast areas in search of anomalies in the terrain, invisible to the naked eye. What they discover exceeds their expectations. To the east of the Jabal Mudmar, Mudmar Mountain in Arabic, pile of stones thought to be connected to the laying of power lines takes on a whole new meaning when seen from the skies. The geometrical arrangement of the stones leaves no room for doubt. It's a man-made structure. The archaeologists, who were looking for the remains of flimsy nomadic dwellings, actually discover a huge building. It's a complete surprise, especially in such an isolated area, more than 15 kilometers from the first known water point. The discovery appears so important that French archaeologist Anne Benoit, the world's leading expert on Iron Age cultures in Arabia, joins the team to help solve the riddle of this mysterious building.
We saw a hill with large brown stones sticking out of it. And I said to him it was very probably a gathering place where we were bound to find traces of rituals. Mudmar is located in a region at the frontier between Oman's fertile mountain areas and the desert. And it's a region that really evolved in the Iron Age. With the domestication of the camel, desert areas were conquered. The nomad camel owners must have met people in Mudmar from the foothills of the mountain range, from Salut, for instance.
By excavating Mudmar, the archaeologists hope not only to find out more about the desert nomads, but also the lifestyle and beliefs of the sedentary peoples responsible for the oasis' revival. This strategic crossroads is at the meeting point of two cultures. A blank page in ancient history could well be written here and now.
I'm in charge of the site when Guillaume can't be here. So it's my job to know where we're heading, what we're looking for, and how to proceed. And I document all that by writing down in a notebook who's doing what and what we found, so that we have a record of how the dig is evolving.
If you look at the stones, it takes a bit of imagination, but these stones are in line with the building. And those two are not only in line with the building, but also with the big pillar over there, and in line with what's behind. This is the biggest room. Until now, there was hardly anything in it. But today, we've reached a level where there are several stones laid really flat. And if you look closely, they appear to be not only in line with the building, but also aligned. So they could very well be bases of pillars, or bases of posts that would have supported the roof.
We have a set of stones with here a very dark trace of charcoal, etc. There could well have been a wooden element, such as a beam or post, placed on it to support a structure. The whole thing is covered in this yellowish coating, with plant inclusions, plant fibres, which is on all the walls in this main room. What's new here is not only do we have this trace, which we don't have as clearly anywhere else, but we've also just come across a slightly greenish layer on the surface of the coating, which could either be the result of erosion or even of a fire.
The more recent filling isn't burned, but along the walls. The coating that was on the walls could have been exposed to fire too. It could be that. So with this coating on the walls, there was a fire phase.
The fire could well have contributed to the remarkable condition of the ruins, which were abandoned after the disaster and so neglected by pillagers. One by one, clues enabling them to reconstruct the precious building surface. A unique opportunity to gain insight into its builders' minds. But even in the desert, the Sultanate's archaeological past is eroded by development. The installation of the electric pylon, which is how the site came to be discovered, has damaged an adjacent building. Paradoxically, the destruction has resulted in a wonderful surprise.
Right, this? If I'm not mistaken, it resembles a lamassu. I don't know if you can see. There's a human head, a bull's body, and very long wings. This was a common motif in the Assyrian period. We know of their existence, for instance, in the great Assyrian palaces such as that of Djur-Sharrukin, part of which is at the Louvre. It's a cylinder seal, a Mesopotamian artifact used for the management and sealing of goods. It's an astonishing find. I must admit, I'm extremely surprised to find this type of seal here. It's the first of this type in Oman.
So what does this cylinder tell us? That the Assyrians came as far as here, or that trading occurred?
The Assyrians didn't come here.
Yeah, that's true.
They conquered a large part of the Near and Middle East, but not this part of Arabia. That said, the object itself, or the image as a concept, could have been conveyed by people. What isn't surprising, in terms of dating, is we have a seal probably from the 8th century BCE on an 8th or 9th century site. So the chronology is spot on.
So it all fits?
Absolutely.
In the National Museum in Muscat, a 5,000-year-old Mesopotamian tablet confirms this early contact. In cuneiform characters, it mentions huge amounts of copper being brought by boat from the mysterious land of Magan. But the only copper deposits in the Persian Gulf are found in Oman. So Magan is the ancient name given to this strategic region by neighboring civilizations. And it was the sailors of Magan who traded this precious metal. In the Bronze Age, copper, an essential ingredient in the production of this alloy, was crucially important. The Omanis have kept their historical reputation as the best sailors in the world. In fact, according to tales from 1001 Nights, Sinbad the Sailor was born in Oman. This maritime culture is strong. Remains of Bronze Age vessels have been discovered, and dhows are still made today. Despite the recent wave of modernization, the Omanis still lead a largely traditional way of life. Trading between the coastal areas of the Persian Gulf was documented by the Mesopotamian tablet in the National Museum. But the cylinder seal unearthed in Mudmar proves that these cultural influences penetrated the desert far deeper than previously thought. The discovery suddenly places this nomadic culture in the concert of ancient nations. The excavations continue with renewed enthusiasm. A small room now intrigues the archaeologists because it has no doors or windows. There are more surprises in store for our team.
Okay, what have you got? Ah, not bad. There are tons. It's got to be a cache. This has to be the weirdest room in the history of Middle Eastern archaeology.
Yes, there isn't even a door, but it's full.
There are no doors. In a depth of 60 centimeters, there are 1, 2, 3 bows. Hopefully one day we'll understand what happened in this room.
The treasure of Mudmar.
Well done. Great job. Is the ground just as hard here?
Yes, it's awful. We're demoralised.
You know, I've never heard of bronze bows anywhere else. Bows made...
Entirely of bronze.
Entirely of bronze.
It's unique.
In theory, when it comes to non-ritual objects, functional objects, whether they are used for hunting or combat, ordinarily, bows are wooden and the bowstrings are fibre or sinew. It's hard to say for sure, though, because we never come across them. They're perishable. And because they're perishable, we don't actually know what proto-historic bows were like. But here we have replicas, maybe ex-votos in bronze, which means now we have a definite idea of what they were like. This find is unique, without a doubt. It's a first in the history of archaeology.
None of these objects could be really used.
If you want to use a bow with a bronze bowstring, good luck to you. They're a bit small too, maybe, to be functional objects. That said, there are 60-centimetre bows in some depictions. Now, we can't leave artifacts like this unprotected overnight in the middle of nowhere, which means our goal is to remove the lot today. Wow, is it small?
It isn't small, no. I wouldn't say so. I think it's like this.
Ah, excellent. A crescent-shaped dagger. Iron Age, or rather Iron Age 2. This one is complete with its tip. Frankly, a cache of weapons like this, with an Iron Age dagger, 3 bows and a quiver, is not only unprecedented in Oman, but in the Near East as a whole. The fact that there's so much metal and only weapons too is very significant. There are no objects, no tools, so it's an indication as to the building's purpose.
Christian Robin is the world's leading expert on the pre-Islamic cultures of the Middle East. Given the importance of the finds, he contributes his expertise to the mission.
The Mudmar structure definitely makes me think of the treasure temples mentioned in traditional Islamic literature, in reference to the temples of pre-Islamic Arabia. In each temple there was a well-protected, thief-proof room where precious objects were kept. So this would explain why it's not easily accessible. There would probably have been a well-guarded trapdoor in the ceiling, maybe with a large stone on top of it. That would be to keep it shut and protect the treasure that had been accumulated in what might have been a sanctuary.
A nondescript building, remains dating from the Iron Age no one was interested in the middle of nowhere, which were almost bulldozed to make way for power lines. I'm even more delighted because I did a thesis on Eastern weaponry without ever finding a single weapon in the course of my research.
Look at this! 5th find. Here.
Ah, it's a battle axe. Oh, it's beautiful. It's a magnificent axe. I promise you, touch wood, there'll be a display cabinet for all of this.
Guillaume Gernez has made a hugely important discovery in Mudmar. A temple's treasure was obviously the first thing invading armies would have looted. So no treasure is ever found in the temples. The temples are usually in ruins, and archaeologists only find insignificant remains. To find a sanctuary with all its treasure intact, or at least partially, is absolutely exceptional. It's an extremely important find.
It's a magnificent axe, typical of the Iron Age too in Eastern Arabia, which after being cast wasn't even finished. You can see the seams here of the 2 parts of the stone mould, and here where the molten bronze was poured into it. This means it was taken out of the mould and left unfinished. Usually these elements should have been removed. Instead of doing that, they've simply put it into the cache.
The battle axe is a symbol of power. And it's possible the unfinished axes deposited in Mudmar were the result of a demonstration of technical skills, and that they weren't finished for a specific reason. An unfinished axe is not yet the axe carried by the individual who has the power to do so. There may well have been meetings, decision-making meetings, official gatherings, as well as meetings involving what we describe nowadays as jousts, encounters during which individuals showed off their skills. Because of this, we believe that they were intergroup meetings.
Every area with an oasis or several oases was politically autonomous and would regularly take on neighboring areas for territorial or other reasons. So much weaponry and such development of the weaponry could not have been purely for symbolic purposes. It goes beyond that. There's a military dimension to all of this.
The revival of the oases following the invention of the fallage resulted in a period of prosperity. But access to water in this arid region meant new things were coveted. With the domestication of the dromedary, groups previously isolated in the desert came into contact, and conflicts occurred. The fire in the Temple of Mudmar may well have happened during one of these attacks. We'll never know the exact circumstances of the fire, but the nature of the treasure, exclusively made up of weapons, leaves little doubt as to the period's priorities.
Let's remove the first bow. Focus, everyone.
Mine is almost ready. The bowstring is almost completely clear.
Okay, the next thing we're going to take out is the bow next to Mathilde.
Hang on. It's complete. It isn't big enough. Damn.
No, this isn't big enough. I've got it. It's absolutely magnificent.
And it's one of a kind.
For sure. Well, one of a kind together with the 4 others we've found.
Ah?
An axe?
An axe.
But the axes are easy to remove, so it's okay.
15 hours later.
Holy cow.
Guys, what have we found here? Seriously. This has got to be a first.
It's absolutely awesome.
Seriously. Shall I blow the dust off?
Yes. Fantastic.
It's beautiful.
Magnificent. Okay, there's nothing underneath? That was some adrenaline rush, guys. Okay, drivers, get ready. All the others, please wait.
This nail-biting excavation, conducted late into the night, has resulted in the discovery of 5 identical sets of weapons, each consisting of a bronze bow, dagger and axe. The archaeologists will need time to fully appreciate the relevance of these remarkable finds and understand their scientific significance. For now, exhausted but delighted, Guillaume's dream team stops at the neighbouring camp to share their joy with the Bedouin.
Total height, 69.2 centimeters. 1.5 centimeters. And on the other side, the same, 1147, it's the same. Mind you, 69.2 centimeters is almost functional. I think on the bas-relief there are riders on the backs of camels. 1992. On the bas-relief, it's a bit smaller, but not that much smaller than the full-scale bows. Coming through.
The archaeologists still cannot explain the importance of a site like Mudmar so far from the first oasis. Guillaume Giernez has asked Tara Buzan, the geoarchaeologist who's already studied the tower in Salut, to come and solve the mystery.
We thought this structure was a tomb, so an unidentified structure initially. By excavating the structure, we realized that firstly there were no bodies in it, and secondly, there was a small basin in it, here, which was probably designed for holding water. We decided to clear this part, and when we did, we found a clay seam right in the middle of the sediment. And this clay seam is in fact a channel for water coming from the Jebel. This is a strategic place to collect water. This is because the water has not yet been polluted. It comes straight from the mountain. It's retained by this small limestone slab just before it disappears into the sand. We're not dealing with a source intended for agricultural fields or an oasis, for example. It's something else.
Right. It's really remarkable, this water supply. It's perfectly clear. Why this element is inside the building is a bit of a mystery to me. Could have been outside, but if it's directly linked to practices that took place here, in this room, in this building, then it must have a specific meaning. It's deliberate. They didn't create this building by chance.
For sure, they didn't just happen to build it over a well.
No. It's directly related to the building's role. I couldn't say exactly which ritual, but some sort of ritual involving water. With all that entails, purification, ablutions and so on. It could be part of a ritual.
That's consistent with my diagnosis. Because after all, there isn't much water flowing through here. It's a trickle, a small stream.
For everyday consumption, it isn't sufficient.
Yeah, there's too little.
So there are the ablutions. It's possible they needed water in these large meetings, where there would have been a lot of people. And then there's the symbol of wealth, provided by the water coming out of the ground. The fact is, in the Iron Age, the camel became a very important economic product. Meetings of nomads with camels could be a very impressive sight. You could have thousands of camels.
The dromedary still has an important place in Amman, but its place is more symbolic nowadays. Ahmed Al-Marroqi wants to ensure that this animal does not disappear completely from Bedouin culture. The dromedary is so deeply rooted in the history of this people that the Bedouins' very identity could disappear without it.
I've got 20 camels and I like to live like before. And I'm trying to show them, the teenagers, the people who never know the camels, I try to show them their parents, they use the camels, and camels is a very good animals. This is how we was living, traveling with the camels, and now you're carrying with the car, with the AC, with the music. You can see me, I'm traveling with the camels, heating sand, there is no AC. We work with the French people here in Adam, and they found a lot of things which is more than 500,000 years, which is we never know about. So our coming generation, when they go and study in the university, they will understand what it was there before. So I think this is very good, very nice.
Winter has drawn to a close on the Arabian Peninsula. The stifling heat has returned. It's time for the team to wrap up their excavation. For the archaeologists, one question remains unanswered. To whom or what was this remarkable complex in the middle of the desert devoted? Their last chance to find an answer is a strange platform built in the slope overlooking the temple.
Let's go and see. I heard shouts and cries. See if it's a horned viper or something. Is it decorated? I can't see.
Yes, a little bit, maybe.
It's magnificent.
This is the third horned snake.
It's absolutely exceptional. In Oman, there's one other site where snakes have been unearthed, and that's Salut. In Salut, a few snakes were found, but not as many or such a variety, and not of this quality either, I believe.
The information is of huge importance. The ritual symbols of the desert nomads were the same as those of the sedentary populations. The two cultures are closer than previously imagined, and symbols show their common origins, the primitive oases of the Bronze Age.
The quality of the metal suggests these weren't things that were simply discarded on the slope. They were offerings, votive objects. But where did they come from? And how did they end up here?
Is the snake a deity? An attribute of a deity? Does it represent something? To be perfectly honest, we have no idea.
The snake is the only figure we know of in this region, and we can't really assign an identity to it. It isn't a god, it's a symbol. A symbol associated with fertility, owing to the meanings it had in neighboring areas. It's a symbol associated with vegetation, with gardens, with water coming out of the ground. It is the snake, too, that masters, controls hidden techniques. For instance, the snake was associated with the development of the phallage. The water is hidden, and the snake, as it were, is the animal that gave man the knowledge needed to find this water.
Ah, it's superb.
This one is magnificent.
It's superb.
Why is it curved? Aren't they usually flat?
No, not necessarily. Some were bent and possibly even flattened by a stone. This snake is particularly unique.
It's uncommonly big.
It's especially big. The most surprising thing is the sheer quantity of metal artifacts. Usually, on most sites, including in tombs, we find fewer artifacts because the tombs have been pillaged or the sites cleaned, reorganized.
If they pillaged tombs, why didn't they pillage this building? You can see it from a very long way off.
We only usually find so much material when some sort of violent, swift and lasting destruction has occurred.
So it's the fire which, by destroying the temple and consigning it to oblivion, now enables our archaeologists to understand its purpose, a sanctuary devoted to water and to its symbolic representation, the snake. This revelation belongs first and foremost to the Omanis. How will these fervent Muslims react to rituals that could be interpreted as idolatry?
This is a Bedouin world. Even 2,500 years ago, there were Bedouins here. And around Adam, it's still mainly Bedouin. These ways of life mean a lot to them. It's pre-Islamic. But the Omanis are particularly open-minded when it comes to that.
News of the discoveries in Mudmar has reached the highest echelons of Oman's government. Ali Al-Maroki, from the Ministry of Heritage and Culture, visits the site in person.
Hello.
Ali, how are you?
Everything's fine, yes, and you good?
He's accompanied by his Bedouin uncle, who knows the area very well.
And he always coming here and he doesn't realize something like that.
Never before. It could be interesting to have the opinion of your uncle about what can it be, if it reminds him something he could have seen or known before. Or...
Look at this snake. What do you make of it?
Is it copper?
Yes, it's copper.
Here.
It's heavy.
In the Arabic culture, what is the meaning of the snake?
It's religions. Religions, things and protect.
Okay.
Yeah, religions and protect, two things.
Even today?
Even until today.
I see.
So that is relating with that kind of medicine.
Traditional use of medicine and other kind of protection is nice. So thank you, Ali.
You're welcome, Dr. Guillaume. Thank you very much.
For the Bedouin today, the snake is the genie that protects the home, the jinn. The snake can present a danger, and at the same time, if you gain its favor, it's wonderful. I think the hidden room denotes all these notions. Offerings through the ground, the subterranean world, and the hidden nature of knowledge that may be associated with the magic of the deity or deities represented as snakes.
The French team's archaeological discoveries in Oman are remarkable. First, they've resulted in a better understanding of how the populations of southeastern Arabia adapted their way of life to an increasing aridification. From primitive wells to the technological revolution of the Falaj, now that's progress. And the impromptu discovery of the Temple of Mudmar, cultural crossroads at the frontier of two worlds, the desert and the oasis, sheds a whole new light on their common origins. Here too, water is at the center of everything, with its symbols and its rituals. The wealth of offerings given to it attests to the vital importance of blue gold in pre-Islamic religions. Water is still an essential element in Islamic ritual today. The finds from Salut and Mudmar join the National Museum's collections in Muscat. Guillaume Gernaise continues his excavations. As long as the geopolitical context of the Middle East allows, he wants to pursue his exploration of these cultures, which are slightly less mysterious now. Their legacy is a rational use of water resources. In this era of great global challenges, the idea is as modern as it is inspiring.